what's up, everyone? It's your girl V, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Unfoldings. It's a new week, a new episode, and a new guest. And it is the month of June. We're carrying on with Men's Mental Health Month. And today we have a very special guest. I call him Uncle Al. I don't want to say what I call you, but you guys probably know him as Zibuzi Al Kunene on social media platforms, and I will let him do the rest, and he'll tell you what he does. And hi,
Hello.
welcome to Mindful Unfoldings.
Thank you.
How are you?
Excited.
Excited? Okay, so can you please tell everybody who you are, what you do, everything before we get into the conversation?
Where do I start?
You actually do a lot.
Do I?
You do.
Okay, my recent one is I'm a radio presenter on Impact 103. It's a Christian contemporary radio station. And then before that, I did Dads in the Picture. I was chairman of Dads in the Picture, an organization that advocates for fathers to have advocate for children to have a positive role model in their lives. So we're seeing a plethora of absent fathers. And instead of calling them deadbeat fathers, we're simply saying to them, look at your child's life and make sure that every time that they look back over their lives, they can say dad was always in the picture. So hence the name Dad in the Picture, right? So whenever a child reflects and they can always say dad was in the picture. So we advocate with fathers because mostly mothers are there. I'm saying mostly intentionally. Mostly mothers are there. And so it's the fathers who tended to be absent. Plus, fathers have been systematically removed from the family. And we are still experiencing some of that. So that's what Dads in the Picture does. I'm an author. Published a book,
Yes,
Morning
you
Thoughts
are.
by Zibusa
Yes, I get
Elkunene.
morning thoughts every morning, by the way. They're a good start to the morning. So, yes. Tell us more about that.
Morning Thoughts is something that started like a joke. You know, when you've got a WhatsApp broadcast list,
Yeah.
and then you're just sending out jokes and pictures. And then the jokes come, okay, little serious message here and there. But in 2020, I was reading a book, The 5 a.m. Club by
Yes.
Robin Sharma. And then, since I was awake in the morning doing the 2020 routine,
Yes.
part of my journaling then was writing morning thoughts and still sending them out. Hence, morning thoughts. But they've since evolved from where they started to where they are. And I think the evolution again still is going far.
Yeah.
You know, it's not yet the end. It's just the beginning of something else. So I'm excited about the journey. Also, I tried recently doing things on my own. I tried getting people to subscribe
To subscribe to?
to the Morning Thoughts and pay a subscription. But there was a logic to that, and there's
Yeah.
still a logic to that. And then God reminded me that freely given, freely received, freely given. So then I continued, but there's a part to it where people still, those who subscribed, are getting extra value from it.
Okay.
So the messages are still coming through,
Yeah.
but there's extra that comes. You know, there's emails, and then there's coaching, there's conversations, there's reflections that go on. So that's what I do. And then I'm a father, I'm a husband. I learned this term recently, social father. I'm a social father then to other children.
Yes.
And then I'm a coach as well.
Yes. You see, a man of many works.
Yes.
That's what I said. Yes.
And I'm full-time employed.
Yes.
So I'm doing all of this. When I'm saying it now, it sounds like, hey, I'm doing a lot. But I still feel I could be doing more. And that's my long introduction.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming. We're honored to have you. And I'm excited for today's conversation because we're doing a marathon for Men's Mental Health Month. And I thought it's important to talk about this just so as women, I feel like we need to accommodate the males that we can
It's shocking to hear you say, as women.
Why? Is it shocking?
Like, not so long ago,
I was a baby.
you were a baby. And your mother and I often talk about you at work. And
Yeah.
like, hey, Uvuyela this. And I remember I would always be on your defense, hey?
Yes, always.
And, you know, it's amazing how children grow up quickly. And to think that your mother has never been on camera doing anything like this, I don't know where you got it from,
I also don't know where I got it from.
but I love it.
Thank you.
It's like this past Monday on Impact, I had a guest, and we were talking about the 7 stages of manhood. And part of that, I think it's the second stage, where the boy, a child starts out as a boy, and then becomes a son, and then becomes a man, and then becomes a father. But the transition from the boy to the man to the son requires a father to claim them. And many children are wondering, many even grown-up men are still in the stage of a boy without a father having claimed them. And then they stay a boy, but they grow in the body. But also, this is not just gender tied to just a boy in the sense of a male, but a boy in the sense of a child. Like, for example, let's take you. You're a girl, you are a girl, and then the transition from girl to a woman or a lady needed a father to claim you and say, you are mine. And I think every time when we spoke, even though you had 2 fathers,
Yeah.
there was still that sense of responsibility to go, this young one, ngathi nami, I could just claim you
Yeah.
and take you through those ropes and help you. And there were times when I would say, let's talk, you know? Because sometimes there are things that you can't tell your biological father
Yes.
or your dad or whomever, but there's someone else that you can speak to.
Yes.
So to open up that avenue for you, it was such an honor for me, you know. And there were conversations that your mother would never know about that we had. That for me it was giving to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you became a daughter.
Yes.
That I never. So to hear you say, as a woman, and to see the work that you're doing, it brings so much pride.
Yeah.
There's a part in the Bible that I love in the New Testament where Jesus gets baptized. And then at the same time, and this is the very unique part in the Bible that people really miss. So Jesus gets baptized, and then the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove descends upon him. And then thirdly, God speaks. And then he says, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. That was before he performed anything. He didn't do any miracles prior to that moment. So if I were to be in a position of a father to you, I would say, you're my daughter in whom I am well pleased. Not because you've done anything, not because you've performed, not because you need to do anything, but simply because of who you are, simply because of the relationship that we have. It legitimizes us to be father and daughter.
Yes.
You know. And then another unique thing about that moment is that nowhere in the Bible do you see God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit all operating at the same time in the same place. So that's a special moment.
Yeah.
So when the father then gets to claim the child and says, this is my beloved in whom I am well pleased, it's a special moment.
I see why you said I must take tissues. I see why you said I must take tissues. Today I'm going to shed tears. Thank you so much. Actually, I'm so speechless. I don't know what to say. But I'm grateful. I always say it all the time. I even tell my mom all the time that you're one person that always has to have a seat at the table because you've done so much for me. So I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
But I'm disappointed.
Why?
Why did it take so long?
No, thing is, I always say when I have guests it needs the timing for me. I wanted it to be the perfect time. And with what you do with the morning thoughts, and you share so much, you have so much wisdom. I wanted you to have, like, to come on an episode where I thought you have a lot to give. Because it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It was just in perfect timing. And this was the
I just
perfect
needed to
time.
make you squirm, eh?
But I got you. I answered. So we're
Yeah.
going to get right into it.
Yes.
I want to know, what is men's mental health?
It's basically the state of men being in the right place. And I'm glad that you are also engaging in this conversation before you even get to the stages of getting married and having a husband and then having a family, because it'll open you up to understanding, to a certain degree, the mind of a man.
Yeah.
So as men, when we go through challenges, we go inside our head. We don't, as women, when you go through challenges, like, you just, hey, show me this, you
Yeah.
call this one, you talk to this one, you make sense through talking. But we first try to make sense by going into our head. And the more I don't find a solution, the more it doesn't make sense for me, then the longer I stay, the longer I try and make sense of it.
Yes.
But all the while, life is not standstill. I need to be a father, I need to be a husband, I need to be an employee, I need to bring in money, I need to be doing all of these things. So while I'm in my head, I still need to do all of these things. So my mind gets to be in another state. And most men, what they do is they run to the wrong things. They run to promiscuity, to drugs, to substance abuse, to things that cause them harm, all in the name of trying to escape. But that never really helps. It's like getting drunk. You get drunk, you get sloshed now, and then the next morning you're like, ish, what was I doing? Never. 2 hours later, you're back at it again.
Yeah.
Right? So even with the problems, whatever you try not to address, but you try and just cover it, you then go back. It's still there. A problem is still there. If, for example, now this plant, right, it's in my sight, and let's say it was irritating me, and I try to ignore it by keeping my focus on you, but I can see it's still there. Until I do something about it, it'll always be there. Similar to problems. So as men, we tend to go into our minds. And then another problem or challenge that we face is our lack of vocabulary.
Yeah.
You are able to say, this is how I feel. Ask any man, how do you feel? He's going to tell you what he thinks. How do you feel? He goes, hey man, loyong jayla gabi. But how do you feel? And then that's when he struggles. But when he finds it, it becomes very hard to hear the pain of a man. It's hard to listen. I don't know if you've ever heard a man not complain, not cry, but just tell you his pain, because it's deep. There's something that God has given us that it's always there within us, that sense of responsibility, that weight we carry. And because of our lack of vocabulary, we can't even articulate it. And then it makes it worse when a woman comes to you and says, what are you thinking? So before I even answer that question now, I'm thinking, okay, which one of the many problems in my head do I start with? And then I ended up saying, no, nothing. Not really because there's nothing, but if I start with this one, how am I going to articulate it? And then when I, as a woman, you'd come and say, like, you've been sitting with this thing for so long, but I've been trying to make sense of it. And in me trying to make sense of it, I'm not finding a solution.
Yeah.
But the day I find a solution, hey, Miss Kat, I've got this problem, and I think this is how we can do it. And then you come with a different perspective. But for as long as I don't have answers, I go into my head, and then things just get muddled up.
Yeah. So I know, like, for a lot of us women, like you said, we're very vocal with our mental health and whatever we go through and the challenges that we face. Like, we can actually call our friends and say, yo, this is what's happening, or sit in a group and talk about our problems. Why is it that men don't have that within their friend group? Why? Because I've noticed a lot of men that I've asked, like, why don't you just talk to your friends about it? I mean, you don't have to talk to us, because many men feel misunderstood by women, or they feel like we use their pain and the trauma against them when we're angry. And we'll get to that one. We will. But now I want to know, like, why don't men have that safe space within their friendships or their friend groups to talk about their mental health? Because I believe that should be your one go-to point.
In theory, it's easy, but in practice, it's not that easy. There's that masculine pride that first blocks us from just endoda kunzima. Because sometimes, once I start talking about it, I'm gonna cry. So you'd rather not. Ne? Once I start, because I've got so much pain bottled up. Remember, as men, we still have that little boy inside of us who was told from a very young age, tigers don't cry, be a man, toughen up, man up. So we've told him all of those things. We've told him, keep it in. You can't break down now. This is not the time. So he doesn't know whether this is the safe space. And sometimes when you get to the point where a man comes and says, Ish, ndoda kunzima. When he says kunzima, we understand. Kunzima. And then mostly it's like, Ish, ngiyakuzwa ndoda. We never really go deeper into the details. But then it is easier for men to open up when they are more relaxed, especially among people they trust. So men bond over activities rather than just us sitting and standing. Yabo? So you can't just give me something to drink and put another man next to me. Hey, mfethu kushapha kunjani? Like we're going to talk about something else. Whereas ladies, they gather now, strangers, sugili topic. Yo, ladies, Mara, and then it's on. Tina, we talk about anything and everything.
So then, with what you said, we've identified a problem. It started when you guys were younger. And obviously now it's a build up to when you become a man with a family, kids and stuff like that. So how do you fix that problem? Because now parents are raising men to be like that. And now in the long run, it becomes a problem, because it is a problem, because suicide rate is higher in men than it is in women.
Yes.
So now what's the solution from a parent raising a young boy right now into being a man, and how to deal with their emotions and to speak up about the things that they're experiencing and going through? Let's just say primary, high school, varsity, before we go into marriage, having your own family and dealing with those problems. What's the solution? Because clearly it started when we were young and what we were told and what society expects from men as well.
Yes. So the solution to that is firstly consistency. When a man looks at another man, he looks at, is this one consistent in what they say? Does it look like he can be a brother's keeper? One day he's in a good mood, he's complimenting men. The other day he's in a bad mood, he's bashing men. He goes with the wind, he's tossed to and fro. So it's like, I know, I can't trust you. And are you also doing it for yourself or for me? are you really interested in my needs? I'm saying this because through dads in the picture, one thing that we've been consistent on is empowering dads and being there for them and saying to them, when you're going through something, let's talk. Pick anyone that you've seen engage, that you've followed whenever we have conversations, and then just reach out to them. And I had the honor of receiving a call from one of the dads, from dads in the picture. He says, Ish, it's rough, you know? And for me, it was that moment and that realization that he saw something in me. So that means I've been consistent in the message and even in my conduct. But as well, showing that I am for them. But also, there were times when I've been vulnerable with them as well. So they know that they can relate.
Yeah.
Right. So for our peers, it starts with us being consistent with each other and being responsible. But for the younger ones, it means that we need to start teaching them emotional intelligence and allowing them to cry. But you cannot let a boy cry the same way that you would let a girl cry.
Please elaborate on that one.
There's, okay, maybe let me put it this way. Imagine you are dating someone, you like this guy, ne? And then one day he comes up, I'm stressed. What's going on? No, my shoes, I stepped into something and then my shoes just got dirty. And he's crying. What do you think? Exactly.
What are you doing? Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So as much as we can say we need to raise boys and girls the same, we cannot, because boys are totally different. Yo, boys are rough. And boys are simple in choosing their clothes. Boys, it's like, pick this. Girls, yo. No, but I don't want this. No, but I don't want. And for girls, you have to be kind of gentle. For boys, there's a certain element of roughness that they come with, and that they allow you to be rough with them. So you can't raise them the same. And you need, the world will not be easy on a boy child. So whenever he faces the slightest thing, he cannot be crying. Ne? So there's a certain element where you need to allow them to cry, and then allow them to, okay, now it's okay. Okay, you've cried, how you feel. Now, here's how we move forward. Because you'd be frustrated if whenever you have a husband and instead of coming up with a solution, instead of doing something, he's all crying and complaining, like, I don't be a man. Like, women need that, and women do say that to men. Say, man up. No, man, I want a man. And unfortunately, also, if we put 5 women in the same room and ask them, what does it mean for you when a man is a man? They'll all give you 5 different versions. Imagine this one guy dating these 5 different women, and all of them were telling him, be a man. Confusion. So you need a man who's going to still be strong, still be emotionally vulnerable, and embrace that vulnerability as a human nature. And then still have the strength and courage to bring himself together. Because we are built differently. And there are things that we are in denial. This thing about 50-50, it doesn't work. It doesn't. And I want to challenge anyone, ne? Or all the women who get to watch this, and say, if you had to be given all the money in the world, you never have to worry about anything, would you work?
That's a good question.
The answer is no. You wouldn't.
You wouldn't. No one would. No woman would work.
Because women love being taken care of. They love it. Though every woman wants it differently, but they love being taken care of. If she goes to work, let it be her choice. If any woman does anything that brings in money, it's because it's her choice, not because she has to. But it's a different ball game when you have a man and then you're saying to him, if you had all the money in the world, would you just sit at home and do nothing? Or would you rather be taken care of? No, I'd still want to do something.
Yes.
It's in us. In the Bible, when God spoke to Adam and Eve and the serpent, and he gave them their so-called punishment, he said to Adam, you will now eat the sweat from the sweat of your brow. So that means you must work. But he never said that to the woman. He didn't say, hey, when you'll bear children and then go work. Never. So men need a level of toughness to enable them to face the world, because the world will not be kind to them. As men, we do, at the end of the day, carry our families, carry the world, carry so many things. Why do you think Jesus was born a man?
Because he's the carrier of the world, the carrier of everybody, like you said, on earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even, I think it's the book of Isaiah, which says the government will be on his shoulder. So we follow after that pattern. We follow after that model.
So,
Oh, sorry, I just remembered something. On the mental health, ne? Isaiah 53, one of my favorite scriptures. And this one is for men, right? That any man who's going through a challenge and they're feeling depressed, stressed, isolated, they're feeling lonely, even grief, all of those things Jesus went through. In Isaiah 53, it tells us he was a man acquainted with grief, man of many sorrows. He was, these images of Jesus being this handsome guy, all prim and it said he like a root out of dry ground. I don't know if you've ever seen a root out of dry ground. It's dry, it's ugly. And it says we hid our faces from him, as it were. He was bruised for our iniquities. So he took the blame of other people, and that's what men do. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. So whatever others must face, you get to shield them. And that's not an easy task, right? And sometimes you'll be accused, and a wise man will not go and say, but it wasn't me. It was so-and-so. He takes it because he understands his mandate.
yes.
And then, because Christ is the ultimate example, then we must follow after him. And sometimes we do that unintentionally. And then when you get married and you have a family, as a husband, your role is to pursue your bride, is to pursue her, to love her, even when she rejects you. And that's not an easy thing to do. You need to get to the point where you're willing to die for her. You will not necessarily be required to,
Yeah.
but you're willing to. All because Christ came and died for the bride, and that is us.
Sure, that's very profound. When you put it like that, it's very profound. And I'm glad you said that, because now my next question is, how can women better accommodate men, or build a space for them to feel free to speak about their mental health without men feeling like we'll use it against them when they are when we're in a fight or I'm upset and I'm gonna say, yeah, but now you were crying last week, busy complaining about this. So as women, how can we better accommodate men and their mental health, and how can we be there for them? What would men like us to do? Because it's not like we enjoy the reality of men going through this more than we do, but now we can fix it. We can try fix it. So how can we better accommodate men as women in their mental state?
I think accommodate is not such a nice word. I would say understand.
Okay.
And I love this moment. You know why?
Why?
Like it feels like I'm talking to my daughter and like I'm pouring out on you, pouring out. I love it.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Let's role play. We are a couple. We both come from work, get home, both of us same time. We are tired. Ne? And then I say to you, hey babes, I'm tired. I just need to sit down. Automatic response. Oh, so Mina, I'm not tired. Like we need to eat, we need this, we need the like when your mind is already on our way home, you were calculating what this and this needs to happen. In my mind, I'm tired, need to get home and just breathe. So when I get there, it's then that difference where I just want my 5-10 minutes just to relax and unwind. And if you can understand that as a woman and say, okay, when you are ready, can you please do A, B, C, and D? Help me with A, B, C, and D, right? But most women will just go on the attack and project their experiences, their thoughts, their frustrations on him.
Yes.
And then that's where a man goes, he clamps up.
Question. Don't you think that happens because women don't understand their role in that partnership?
And the role would be?
I mean, obviously, we both came home. We're both tired. But my role as the woman, when I get home, I need to cook for my husband or my kids.
You see, that's what you are thinking. Ne? That when I get home, I need to do A, B, C, and D. And that's putting it in the, what I would say, traditional gender roles, right? But if then maybe, let's say the husband is good at cooking, and when are you good at something else? And you get in that situation, you're expecting him to cook, he just wants to first relax. Yeah? So that's where then the things come. But let's stick with that narrative that it's the lack of understanding, but it's the lack of understanding that he needs that time to be effective. He needs that time to rest to be effective. Even though you may help each other, even though when as a woman it's your role, there are certain expectations that you have. And sometimes the challenge is we don't communicate our expectations going into a relationship and into marriage. Maybe when at home, mommy's doing this, daddy's doing this, and then you see, oh, okay, so this is what they do. And then you get married. Your expectation is, daddy was doing this, so
He has to do that.
mommy was doing this, so I will do this. And then he's sitting there thinking, she's going to do everything because I saw my mom doing everything. You didn't talk about it. The time Sicho, last data, we're going to our malls, movies, vacation, but we never really spoke. And now we're married, the rubber hits the road. It's like, hey, what? There's a joke about this woman who calls her mom and says, Mom, I want to come back. Why? No. This man is starting to use some words I don't understand. Wash, iron, cook, clean. I don't understand those things. Never communicated. And again, when 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 a marriage takes place, oftentimes what I've seen is the woman gets to be the one who's advised. Makoti uyalulekwa ukuthi kumele uziphathe kanjani emshadweni and all of those things. But who sits the man down and say, "Ndoda, nayi indlela." It's only when he fumbles and the man says, indoda kwenziwa kanjalo.
But why do you think it's that way? Why isn't the role played both sides? The way Tina Basitlalisa Pansi and they tell us this is what happens in a marriage, you should do this is expected of you. Why don't men get that?
We've never thought about it. I think it's that excuse. Okay, let me put it this way. There was a time when men were expected to just be there, make love to his wife, and then have children, and then go work. Because that's what was expected. We are Fige Makaya, he's there, he knows what he's supposed to get, and then he goes. You see him once or maybe twice a year. So there's nothing expected of him. So what do you advise? Yeah, well, all we are expected to do is get this thing done, you've fulfilled your responsibility, you're a man now, go work for your family. If he's told Uguti, now you work for your family, that's it. But there are certain things that he learns then as time goes by. So that's one part of it. And then going back to your question, I hope I get to this point one day where I understand why women have this excellent memory, where a woman can see a message on my phone that came through at 13 minutes past 7 and 56 seconds. And somebody said, and the message was, "I love you," with a comma. And then it came from maybe Binky. And then, she sees that message. 6 years later, may now have forgotten about that message. And then you tell me, when you have Abu Pinky telling you I love you, this is even the correct punctuation. I'm like, what? Upinki, that other day you give the date and the time. I'm like, and she said, "I love you," with a comma in the end. I'm thinking, hi, boo. So much detail and so much memory. So you hold on to the wrong things. And then they come up at that time. And so a man realizes, it's not worth it. When you're in an argument, and Etina, we do and say things like, that's why, guys, mabegang, I can say, so global. Just because he wants to get something.
Yes.
Comes to this one, hands of global, comes to the hands of global. Then all three of them come. Mina, when? That day. Because it didn't mean it. It passed. But that's not to say, Gucci, we need to excuse men. But it's just to say, sometimes we say things in passing. And because we don't think much what it can be used against us, those who have grown wiser know Gucci, during an argument, cause anything you say can and will be used against you in the future in an argument. So that's what makes us close up. And also, if you're trying to get something out of me and you are shouting and you're screaming and you're pushing, I'm not going to open up. Hi. No, I'm okay. No, there's nothing. Now I've got this sorted. Because when you start opening up and say, babes, as in, you know that personal loan, it's actually 3 million now. What? Kanti, where have you been going? You've been going on my holidays. You've been asking for this. You've been asking for that and that. Things have been happening. And you never asked Uguti why. But he's been absorbing all of this pressure. Because he knows, okay, I'll try and figure this out. In his mind, he's always doing that. So it's all about understanding who you're married to and who you're in a relationship with. And sometimes women expect men to be women. Just because as a woman you can talk doesn't mean I can talk. Right?
Yes.
Even if I'm a talker, but when the rubber hits the road and I'm going through a painful situation, I'll zip. I am an example of that. I used to say to dads, hey, timers, no man, when you're going through challenges, talk. God was like, oh, Zaktor. Hey, life showed me some flames. What did I do? Zip. Kept quiet. And then I remembered, oh, I keep saying, hey, people must talk. So this is what it feels like. That's why even nangesizulu bathi ubudoda bukhulelwa. Because at any point in time you become a man. But a man who does not have the legitimacy to be a man because there's no father who claimed him.
Sure. So if you could be in a room full of women, and we're talking about this now, what's one thing you would say to them regards to how we can understand men better and their mental health?
You can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
What does that mean?
If you want a man to talk, be loving, be the understanding person, be his woman, but most of all, be his peace. If you can give a man peace, he'll love you. Peace and respect. It doesn't matter how he is. Respect him, give him his peace. That man will trust you. And when you don't use what he's told you against him, understanding that at that moment of vulnerability, he was vulnerable and he trusted you. And in that moment of trust, appreciate that and respect it. Even when it comes and you just don't. No matter, and I think sometimes people have this thing, Yoguti, he's hurting me, so I want to hurt him back, and I want to hurt him where it hurts the most.
Yeah.
Kanti, you'll win that battle and lose the man. You can win many battles, but you lose the man. Utidi Jakes, there's a message he shares. I think it's Emotions. He says, there's a woman who came to him. He says, Bishop, I don't understand. 2 weeks ago, he gave me flowers. We celebrated our wedding anniversary. He came to me yesterday. He says he wants a divorce. Like, it was puzzling. He says, no. What about those roses told you that he was happy? I can fulfill my obligations as a man and still be emotionally detached. I can be intimate with you and give you the best time of your life because it's a performance, but I'm not in it. If I don't have peace, if home is not peaceful, if I don't feel respected and I don't see that I'm respected, then I'm not there. There's something that used to happen a long time ago. I don't see it these days. Mauti and and you want to sit somewhere and they say, hey, don't sit there. Why?
That is taste.
Yeah.
It is.
When you use that teaspoon, like, no.
That's
Everything reserved. Ne? Because they all know that's daddy's. Now he knows, I'm fun. When I get home, I'm treated like a king. He won't park his car, switch it off, and then sit there for 30 minutes to an hour. Hesitant to go in. And that's how you actually know if you've been his peace and if you are who he wants to run to. If he can switch off that car, get out of the car, and just go straight into the house. if he chooses his friends over you, if he chooses his social life over, if he chooses you, the other way around, if he chooses you over his social life, if he chooses you over his friends, then you know. And be authentic. And another thing, we have this tendency, Oguti, we get into something and we want to change it. And here's what I mean. You've never seen, well, I've never seen somebody getting into the Islamic religion and say, I know, guys, you need to change. You need to start accepting this and this and that. Yeah. You never see somebody getting into a Buddhist religion. But Christianity, we've got that thing. No, you need to accommodate us. This religion needs to accommodate us. Ne? So if you get into marriage, something that God created, you must submit to what it requires of you.
Yeah.
It's clear. And some husbands were in their arrogance. Hey, you must submit to me. How? Ephesians 5 says, submit one to another. Not just only one, but one to another. So both of you. And then it says, the Bible says, don't deny each other, ne? Your marital responsibilities. Because you as the wife, your body does not belong to you, but it belongs to the husband. Your husband, his body does not belong to him, it belongs to the wife. So when she wants it, mnikeze. There's a song by Afro Traction where yazi le nto ayifunayo, mnike. Mnike. Akuse yakho. Wangasamnikeza uzonikeza abantu. Eyakhe, mnikeze. So that's the thing. The Bible says it, and it's there. And then some women love to say, I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. Oh, okay. Do you know what it says? You're the one who wakes up before everybody else. You're the one who goes to bed after everybody else. You're the hustler in the home. She considers the fields and buys it. Ne? And out of the profit, by the way. So she goes out, she finds the business opportunities, she finds whatever, and then she makes money out of it, and then out of that profit, then she sees how she grows that income. It's there in Proverbs 31. That's the Proverbs 31 woman. She provides for her family. Yabo? So if you say, I'm getting married and I'm a Christian, then that's what's required of you. And so it then goes forward in terms of the relationship between Christ and the church. And that's important to also note. Uguti, the church is submitted to Christ, but Christ is submitted to God. So there's an order, not a hierarchy, but an order. There's God the Father, God the Son, and then God the Holy Spirit, right? And then we must be, as husbands, we must be submitted to Christ. And then the wife does not have authority over her life except through the husband. And she's tied to the husband for as long as he lives. She's free only when he dies. And that's why even it says when the two divorce, they should not remarry. It doesn't say the husband or the wife, the two. But they are free only through death. And that's where the concept of till death do us part. Because then you're only free. That's why Christ had to come and die for us. And in him, we were dying and being separated from sin. And so once we are resurrected in him and with him, then we're no longer bound by sin. We're no longer slaves to sin, but we're slaves to Christ. So when you get married, you are a slave to your husband, and the husband is serving the wife. And when we understand all of those principles, then we start to fix marriages.
I never thought of it that way. I've never thought of it that way. And before we close,
we're
What?
closing.
Yes, we're closing.
It's like it's a groove, and then
We're
but see, hey,
closing.
it's time.
Kasukvala. But what would you say to men out there? Any words of encouragement? Anything that has to do with their mental health to keep holding on? I don't know. A lot of men probably out there don't have that safe space in their homes within themselves. So, to any man that could watch this, what would you tell him?
Of all the things I can say, I keep going back to Isaiah 53. Firstly, that understand that as a man, you're not alone, that you will go through difficult periods in your life, but you're not alone. You may feel like it, and that's understandable, but you're not alone. It's hard. It's hard to think that as a man, I need to be everything to everyone, but understand that as a man, you're not alone. And what you're going through is not something new. Ecclesiastes tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. What was, will be, and what is, has been. So don't give up. I want to say that. Don't give up. Because think about it. If you give up today and your hope and your solution came tomorrow, what then? And if you give up and you think that by ending your life, you are solving a problem, it actually leaves many, many unanswered questions. What was going on? Why didn't he? How could we have not seen it? So, giving up is not an option. As a man, you were not created to give up. As a man, you were created and you're given the identity of God, Father and man. So follow after that and be a man like God, be a man like Christ.
Well, that's a perfect way to close off the episode. Thank you so much. I learned so much. I have so much more to ask, but you don't have time. So you will come back, definitely. You are coming back and we're going to continue.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming to Mindful Unfoldings. It was a pleasure. This is going to be a good episode. It is a good episode. We appreciate you coming. We're happy to have you. We're happy to have you again and again and again and again. And thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe at Mindful Unfoldings on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as well as Basang Studios on TikTok and Instagram. And also, please do follow Zibuzi Alkanino on social media platforms. I will link everything in the description below, and leave a comment. Tell us what you think, what you've learned, and we will see you guys next week. Until then, bye.